safety is important to people, and being trustworthy. And if everything they hear is coming from the media, and what they've been told is wear your mask and get vaccinated, and I'm doing neither of those.
And you're already the chiropractor. You're already the quack. You know, you're already playing the quack role, and then you're telling them like, hey, everything that you believe. Yeah.
So it's like,
pick your battles.
So if somebody, the other thing that's been interesting about that is, if somebody asked me if I'm vaccinated, and almost everybody did, because they would come in and they would go, what do I need to do with my mask? And I would say,
what do you want to do?
And they would go, well, I've been vaccinated. You've been vaccinated, right? And I was like, no. And what was interesting about that is half of them were like, you're a doctor. Yeah. And then the other half were like, why not? Yeah. But what was interesting is it wasn't a why not, like, you're an asshole. It was, why? Yeah. I'm interested in why you're not. That's, like, you're somebody I want to hear why. And so then an interesting conversation comes out. Yeah. And so, and the other thing is I am not really capable of lying. So, and because of this whole trust thing.
Do you vomit? Like the girl in Knives Out?
I've not seen Knives Out.
You should watch Knives Out.
When she has to tell a lie, she throws up
when she can't lie, she vomits. I watched it the overnight, skill. And just when you said that, I envisioned it. Sorry to interrupt.
It's a really good skill. I'm going to work on that. No, I vomit the truth. Oh. So I've earned my place here as being a trusted member of the community. So if I say I've been vaccinated and I haven't, and somehow that comes back to bite me in the ass, that's just not going to work.
You got to be congruent.
So I am congruent. I am confident in my choice. And if somebody asks me why, I'm perfectly happy to say. And it was interesting. There was a conversation at a party where there were like maybe 20 people at a long table. And these are people that I've known for 10 years, some more than others, some of my very closest friends, but they're very close friends in a community that, we don't have a lot in common except for this kind of fragile relationship that we built up over a long time. We have shared interests in that when we would grow our tomatoes, there was a lot of tomato talk, or when we would go help them harvest their grapes or help them harvest their olives. Very heartfelt, but not a lot of like shared intellectual interest.
Right.
And we were at this table, and somebody said, so there's none of those no-vax idiots at this table, right?
That's the moment that you go, wow.
I am. So's my daughter.
Yeah. Did you actually do that?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Again, I'm not going to lie.
Good for you, yeah.
And then there's another guy sitting across from me who I know a little bit. But what I know is that of this big table, there's a couple of relatives, and then probably two of the closest friends that they have are saying, I'm not. And so then there's this whole like, Rah! And my daughter grabs me and she says, shut up. And I said, I have something to say. She said, yeah, I know you do. Shut up. And I said, no, I'm just going to say one thing. And it's so funny because I do not play the doctor card. I don't care.
No, it's not a...
No one calls me Doctoressa.
Yeah.
Unless I have like 2 people that I have fired from my care, and I make them call me Doctoressa because I just want to establish that there is with them, they need a distance.
Right.
Because they were not respectful of the practice and coming on time and keeping appointments and stuff like that. So 2 people. Yeah. That's it.
I'm the same. I don't want the doctor.
I don't want people to call me. It doesn't matter to me. But in that moment, I pulled out the doctor card and I said, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I am the only person at this table who is a doctor.
Yeah.
There is probably a reason that I have chosen not to vaccinate myself or my child.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, just the blue went, ooh.
Yeah.
And they were all like, oh. And there's a woman who works for a doctor who was there, and she said, and so she really kindly said, there's a lot of people that don't want to get vaccinated, and a lot of them have really good reasons, and
even if they don't,
it's their
why do you need
business.
a reason?
Right,
you don't need a reason.
It's their business.
I don't want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the guy sitting across the table from me said, I'm not anti-vax at all.
Are you pro common sense?
But he said, but my daughter had a vaccine when she was a baby and she was in the hospital for 6 months.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And I said, you shouldn't be there until you're there, if you're ever there.
Yeah.
This is not something that you should be pressured into doing. It's insane. It is insane.
I chuckle at the thought that your patients come in and ask you, like, have you been vaccinated? Because then I think about my patients and I'm like, I don't get that question. And then I'm thinking it's because, they've seen my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
They see what, so they just don't bring it up. And I've actually had a couple of people, this would be a really interesting study if anybody wanted to do it. I'm too lazy. But my maintenance care patients, I'm gowning and scoping. Mm-hmm. I scope them, and I have maintenance care patients that have been coming to me for 2 years, and I adjust maybe 1 or 2 segments on them, and I know their listings that they're usually coming and how stressed their system is, and I'll be scoping, and they didn't tell me anything.
And you're like,
but I'll be like, something happened here. There was one day that a girl came in, and I was like, something happened since the last time I saw you last week. And she thinks she's at the witch doctor, she's like, yeah. And I'm like, is it something emotional? Have you had something emotional happen? And she's like, my grandfather died this week. And she's like, all right. She kind of gave me the, all right, okay, I'll listen to what you have to say. Like, I was like, yeah. And I've also had other ones where I come in and I'm like, something has really stressed you out this week, or since the last time I saw you at least. And they're like, oh, I can't think. And then they'll be like, I got my my shot of the J&J last week, and I'm like, oh, so what do you think about that? Your nervous system seems to be
in crisis,
a little bit stressed about that. Why do you think that is? And then you can have a bit of a dialogue with them that way.
Yeah.
Now, I've learned my lesson not to go aggressive at them. I was never aggressive to my patients, but family members. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm the doctor. Friends, family, and I've said some things that in the moment I mean well. I'm saying this because I love you and I care about.
And so are they.
Yeah. Yeah, but and now I've just learned. I'm like, all right, look, if they come to me and they're like, I got vaccinated, cool. Do you think that it helped you? Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. Good for you.
I have noticed, it's interesting, I really expected to feel more drama in people's systems that had been vaccinated. And at one point I was like, have I lost my ability to feel? Because I really expected to just find this mess. And I have not found the mess that I expected. Definitely messier in people who didn't want to be vaccinated and who felt like they had to. And then there's so many people that just feel like it's such a magic gift that their system is like, yeah. And on some level, that's definitely being perceived. And there's less stress in the kidneys. There's less stress in the spleen. And they're just, it's like they can breathe again. So okay, great.
It's like the opposite of the placebo effect.
I know.
It's like if you wanted the placebo.
I know. It's so, and I remember I was telling the story this weekend. I remember when I was first in practice and I had a pediatric intake form. And one of the first questions was, is your child vaccinated? And when I made the form, my thought was, okay, then I'll ask them about follow-up questions about how messed up they are. And I just remembered And I also remember thinking, like, most of them will say no, right? Because it's me.
Right.
And the reality is most of them say yes.
Yeah.
And then I just remember the first, like, 20, when I would be looking at them, I'd go, oh, like, it was just so shocking. And like, oh my God, I wonder what this kid is going to be like.
Yeah.
Like, is it going to have two eyes in its
Yeah.
socket and their ears are going to be on the same side? And no, most of them are just perfectly fine. Some of them aren't,
Yeah.
which is why we're even having this conversation. And, but it's so much of it is perspective. And I wouldn't allow myself to be vaccinated after I was 5 years old. So I was my own medical advocate.
Right.
And I basically have not gone to a doctor since, except when I had a C-section. So
I was the kid at the front of the line. The nurse used to come to the school library, and I was trying to be the cocky, I'm sure this comes as a massive surprise to you.
yeah, I can.
But whenever I was 9, I was an arrogant little shit.
Huh.
And I remember like the nurse coming and being like, okay, like who's going to be first for their vaccine? And this would shock you. It shocks me now, but yeah, I was that kid at the front of the line being like, I'll go, I'll take my vaccine. And then I went in like, doesn't even hurt, like I was him.
You're tough.
Yeah. And then whenever I got to about 17, this is my vaccine story. I was working in a spar. I don't know what your equivalent of that would be. Just like a
Grocery store.
Grocery store garage. I was working there, and I was also boxing at the time. I was boxing like 6 days a week. I was training hard. I was the Antrim and Ulster champion, and it was during the season. Now in Northern Ireland, we have like the flu season marketing campaign. So it comes on the TV, and it's like, this is the flu season. Go and take your flu vaccine, otherwise you'll get the flu. And I'm 17. I don't know anything about health. I just want to box.
Yeah.
I just want to box and work 2 days a week in this spar to make my $100 a week, and that's enough. And I remember watching it and being like, well, I'm competing and I want to go to Ireland level, so I don't want to lose two weeks of training to the flu, so I'm going to get the vaccine. So I go to work and I'm like, hey, on my break from work, from my lunch break, can I go down to the doctor's surgery? And they're like, yeah, no problem. And I go down, and it's the last vaccine I ever had. I went in, and when I went back to work, I remember standing at the checkout, and bear in mind, this is before I've even heard about chiropractic. I don't know anything about health. And I was just standing there, and it just felt like something was wrong. It felt like I had been violated somehow. And my body I started shivering. But it wasn't like, the way it's a side effect. No, this was like, there's
deeper.
something not right here. I'm never doing that again. And even this was long before I ever discovered chiropractic. I was like, they'll never get that back into me again. And they still haven't, the fuckers, And they say like, when I've said that to a couple of patients, they'll be like, when are you going to get vaccinated? And I say, they can put the vaccine into my corpse, because that's the only way that it'll going to be. And I think that like solidifies my point to the patient.
Clear.
Yeah. Or another good one, if I'm having a day where I just don't want to, I don't have the energy today. A good one, and this is nice for anyone listening, if they ask you and you don't really want to get into an argument, you just say, I have all the vaccines I need.
Yeah, that is a good one.
That's a nice one, because they'll interpret from that whatever they want. But yeah, I'm
good.
I'm good. And as well, with the mums coming in, this is another thought process that I've tried to have, is whether it's a vaccine or whether there was another mum that I encountered who is heavily pregnant, and I just was making conversation like, what did you do today? This is a friend, it's not a patient. And what did you do today? And she's like, oh, I went to this place and that place, and then on my way home I had a McDonald's. I had a Big Mac and fries and a Coke. And this is like with a big, and then instead of getting angry, because I used to get really angry at these things, whether it's someone like vaccinating a baby or whether they're having a McDonald's when they're and then I'm like, I can't get mad because they just don't know. They don't have the training that I have. They don't have the training that Amy Burke has. They think that what they're doing is either harmless, or they think that what they're doing is best. For the child. And then you kind of have to do it with a bit more compassion and a bit more love, and be like, okay, I disagree, but I don't think you're a bad person. I think you were doing the best you can, like what we were saying earlier. You do the best you can with what you have. You know.
Or what you know.
Mm.